Welcome to First Class Fantasy. I'm Theo Greminger. I'm joined by Billy Muzio, and we are in the FFPC streets. We are in an FFPC main event. We drafted Saquon Barkley at the 107, and we're currently looking at somebody just at the 108. So Billy and I, we talked about it, and this was a player that we're both extremely bullish on, and I think it affords us a lot of flexibility because now we've got RB kind of locked down. Billy, maybe talk about your thoughts on Barkley's start from the 107, which may seem a couple of spots too early for some people, but I don't think so at all.
Yeah, gone are the days of Saquon Barkley in the middle to late second round. There was some drafts where he was creeping into round 3 when he had the contract uncertainty, but this is main event season. Those discounts are long gone. They're not happening anymore. Saquon Barkley pretty locked into the 1-2 turn. We know he's not going to come back to us in the 2 hole. He's actually my RB1 in the projections. Updated him last week. He moved up. I gave him a little bit more of the target share. Put him just ahead of Christian McCaffrey. He was pretty close to CMC and Eckler to begin with, but with that slight bump in targets, he moved into the RB1 spot. And I think that it's a pretty sound reason behind it. I mean, you look at this receiving core, and outside Darren Waller, I mean, there's nobody else, Theo. There's, just a wide, slew of shit at the receiving core that it could be anybody and everybody.
Bill, you see who just went off the board at the 110?
I did. Yeah.
That's a wild draft. We're going to get an extremely good build. So just if people that are listening on a podcast, this has been a chalky first round. There's been no surprises, but then we see Derrick Henry go off the board, and we've been seeing Derrick Henry go in the third round. He goes at the 110.
He went ahead of Bijan in this draft.
It's wild. So who took him there? That is no one that we know, because we know a couple. We're not going to reveal names, but there's a couple of really, really experienced, really, really good drafters in this one. Some drafters who use pseudonyms, Billy, but we don't use pseudonyms. We step into the streets. Greminger, Muzio, just that's our names. We're not trying to hide, guys. You know.
Although I think you pointed out there's an imposter, Muzio, over at the NFFC.
Yeah, somebody reaches out to me and they say, Billy's in every single draft today. He's and I go, oh, he's doing all these FFPC best ball tournament drafts, and they go, he's also in a draft champions draft at NFFC. And I send Billy a message, and Billy's like, this is an imposter. So Billy, you either have a long lost cousin on the East Coast, or you have a Billy Muzio imposter. So
there is another Muzio on the East Coast. He's a chef in New York.
Yeah.
I've looked at it because of course you want to Google, see Muzio. How common of a name is Muzio, right? Like this family swung by my store, and it was David and Linda Muzio, I think was the name. I know it was Linda. I can't remember the guy's name, but they left the note from a manager to give to me, and it said, would love to connect about ancestry. Not very many Muzios, give us a call if you're interested. And I haven't called him yet. It's sitting next to my desk, but I mean, how many Muzios are there really? I mean, outside of Italy, maybe, or Sicily, there's not a lot of us out there.
No, it's not, I live on Long Island, and, we have, a lot of people that I know are Italian. I don't know a single Muzio besides you. So I'll say it's not a very common one. So Billy, we're sitting here 3 picks out. AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson, Tony Pollard, Mark Andrews. We have a lot of names here.
There's a lot of names still here. I really like it.
It's fantastic. That's what happens when somebody shakes up the board with a Derrick Henry in the first round. It gets things a little bit goofy. AJ Brown would be an auto pick. Tony Pollard is quite interesting.
Pollard might be an auto pick.
Tony Pollard, I think if Tony Pollard's there at the 206, I think we go running back.
Yeah, it's one of those things that he doesn't fall here all that often in a main event. Well, there goes AJ Brown.
Okay, so Tony Pollard, and if he's selected here at the 205, I lean Garrett Wilson. Which way do you lean?
Real quick, I'm pulling up the stack finder as well.
Shout out to Fantasy Mojo, Darren Armani. He was on with Billy and I recently with Chad.
He saved me so much time with the little click on the left column thing that I had no idea about for the last 5 years I've been using this tool. I used to count every single line. Like I literally start 1, 2, 3, 4.
Me too.
And you can physically click it. So Wilson just went.
Okay, so how are we looking on the commonness of a Barkley Pollard team?
That's what I'm looking. Pollard right now. Barkley Pollard main event. There is 4. That is it. Okay, so let's go to Andrews. It's the other one.
Andrews, and
There's one Andrews Barkley team, but we talked about taking Waller in the third, so that would change our plan unless we wanted to go that direction.
I think we go with our initial plan. I think we go running back start, which is already pretty uncommon.
Yeah,
and to be able to do a Barkley Pollard one, I think this might be an impossible build in Vegas.
And we're one of 4 teams with Pollard and Barkley, so I like the, at least it's not that common.
Yeah, I think this is a smash pick.
Okay, I'm gonna lock it then. Pollard it is. So Pollard's locked in. Andrews was more unique, but it kind of contradicts what we were going to do. So it would have. I mean, now if Waller goes, I'm gonna pound the table. But it's there. Yeah, Andrews is the very next pick. It's where you expect to see him. I mean, he shouldn't have been there to begin with.
So the Waller at the 307, unless there's an exceptional value that presents itself, I think that would be the way to play this, and really kind of lean into a consolidated New York Giants attack.
Yep, I like
it. With those two. I mean, I think that the Giants are. It's a funny thing where we know they're going to score some points this year. I do think Brian Dable year 2, Daniel Jones second year in the offense, Saquon and Waller healthy. They're going to score some points, but there's not a single wide receiver who I'm like, oh my gosh, we got to add to that stack. So it's a unique situation where having Waller and Barkley, I think, is going to be a really, really fun thing week to week, and I think it's going to be very predictable.
Oh, you mean you're not in on all 15 wide receivers they have, Theo?
I'll say full disclosure. I've been drafting a lot of Darius Slayton on Underdog, and I've been drafting a lot
best
of
ball. Yeah, he goes so late
on Underdog too. Yep.
Speaking of late picks, so Corey Davis retired today.
Yes,
it's interesting to see him and Trey Lance both retire on the same days, but
effectively.
But McCole Hardman is he's actually my most owned player in FFPC. That's counting best balls. The 160 drafts right now at FFPC throughout this year. 30% of those I have McCole Hardman because he was going in round 20 like clockwork for about 3 months. What is your take on McCole Hardman? And let's focus on best ball because redraft's a little harder to hit the start button on McCole Hardman.
I think best ball McCole Hardman is fine. I don't think they have enough weapons that I think that Aaron Rodgers wants to have Randall Cobb out on the field. But I don't think that at the end of the day, they're going to be able to use Cobb like Rodgers wants, and they're going to need that speed that Hardman gives them. So I'm in on Hardman, especially in best ball. Billy, we see Jonathan Taylor go off the board at the 301. So you're starting to see these Taylor third round exposures.
Yeah. Best ball, I got him at 3.8 today.
Yeah. I mean, the best ball tournaments, I'm kind of more into taking him.
Yeah, because you don't have to worry about it as much.
Yeah. So it's all or nothing there. In this sort of league, I don't know. It's too much indecision for a main event for me right now, for better or for worse.
Now, let's play devil's advocate here because everyone is thinking it, right? They know the talent is there. He's young enough to rebound from this ankle surgery. It's a messy situation with the contract, trying to be traded, hold in. Is he going to play 6 games? Is he going to have the blue flu, as Pat Fitzmaurice calls it, which I love that saying, by the way. The blue flu is the colors of the Colts, white and blue. But the blue flu is that he's all of a sudden ankle hurts, can't play today for, the last 10 weeks after he gains his year of eligibility. So potential blue flu contract, dispute. Although if he lands in the right situation, like you're hearing the Chargers are interested. You're hearing that Miami is interested. You're hearing the Bears are interested. You're hearing that the Bills are interested. In the right situation, Taylor could absolutely smash us in the third round. Does it scare you at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that let's put it like this, and this is more of for people that draft a lot will kind of understand what I'm saying. Like the 2-3 turn is different than like the 306. So like for me, I think like, you're talking about getting him. So let's quickly talk about
Waller made it. I'm going to lock it.
Yeah, I think Waller's the pick. And just curious, who would you take if we didn't go Waller?
If I wouldn't have taken Waller, I would have taken DK Metcalf.
Me too. I was going to say DK here is appealing because especially with the JSN injury.
Can you tell me what happened to JSN today? Does that affect our bet at all? I don't
yes,
know.
Billy. We do not have an injury caveat. I'm going to be down 350 to Billy unless JSN comes back, Billy, and goes like full nuclear. Then I'm looking at a $350 loss to the West Coast Muzio, not the East Coast Muzio. So we go Darren Waller over DK Metcalf. Let me ask you this, Billy. If we did not have Saquon Barkley, I think I would have leaned DK Metcalf.
Yep, I would have as well, especially because, like, if we had started Eckler or even if we had started Diggs there, I probably still would have gone the DK route. Typically, I'm a receiver early kind of guy because I think there's so much value at the running back position this year. So this is, a different build for me out the gate anyhow. But I like Barkley. I like Pollard. I'm not going to own a lot of them in the main event simply because I like the value that you can get with, like, the Cam Akers, the Rashad Whites, the David Montgomerys. And so I find myself starting Diggs. I find myself starting Lamb or Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown in round 2, Garrett Wilson round 2, Chris Olave round 2. And so this is a different attack for me. I already own a bit of DK, though, so I'm actually happy because I think DK is probably my second most owned receiver through the first 7 mains that I've done. This is main number 8 that I've completed. I got 3 more in Vegas, but Metcalf's already, I think, around 40%. So it was probably wise of me to pass him there and go for Waller.
Yeah, so I agree with you, and I think structure really does matter, especially because Billy and I are each going to have a lot of these main events. DK Metcalf, I think, is absolutely a value there, but I do think Waller is looking more and more like a value, especially with the TJ Hawkinson situation, where Hawkinson, had the bad ear infection, which was like, come on, man. I mean, I'm not trying to disparage bad ear infections. I'm sure it's a very hard thing, but you don't like seeing players miss time for ear infections. And now you have him with the back. I think that TJ Hawkinson wants a contract, but either way, I don't like the fact that he's not out there, and you have Jordan Addison and you have Justin Jefferson and you have guys on that offense that are continually getting looks right now, and he's not out there on the field. I just don't. It's like a opposite vibes of what we're getting from Waller right now. So I think that Waller is going to start going more and more like where Billy and I took him.
Yeah, Waller is actually my tight end 3 in the last couple updates that I've done over at Player Profiler, simply because we're hearing he's going to be a focal point of the offense. We know he's going to be a focal point of the offense because they have no weapons. So the fact that we own the 2 biggest pieces of this offense is very appealing to me. And if anything were to happen to either or of them, Theo, it's only going to boost the other one's value. And so we kind of, I don't want to say handcuffed ourselves because they're 2 different positions, but we did, give ourselves an out. If one did happen to, like, if Barkley goes down, Waller's going to see more targets. If Waller goes down, Barkley's going to see more targets. And so this is something that I like to do, especially in main events where I'm looking to get out of the league and win this league to get into the shootout, where I know that if I have a build I'm going to go about this way, we're kind of safe netting ourselves, but still have the upside. The other thing that I really like is that we're the only tournament in the team right now in the main event that have Barkley, Pollard, and Waller.
I love it. And we're going to get a little more unique here. So right now in our queue, Billy, I have Christian Watson, Jerry Jeudy, and I have Deebo Samuel. Is there anyone else that you want to kind of push into this consideration here?
Hopkins, I think, is in consideration, especially because we have the injury to Treylon Burks. We saw the injury to Chigo. I haven't seen an update on that today because I've been on Twitter. Have you seen an update on Chigo?
I have not, but I think that regardless of Chig and Treylon, I think DeAndre Hopkins is just an alpha, and he's the kind of guy that quarterbacks want to target 25+%. It's been a truism. No matter where he's gone, he's been the target commander. And I think this is, especially with a veteran like Ryan Tannehill, there's a certain level of trust with a guy like DeAndre Hopkins where you're more willing to throw up 50-50 balls. And Hopkins is excellent on those sort of balls anyway. So for me, I think Hopkins is fine. I'm not going to take him over Christian Watson, but if you want to go Hopkins over a Jerry Jeudy, I certainly would have that conversation.
Yeah, let me check my ownership right now. I'm at 33% DeAndre Hopkins, and under that, Christian Watson's at 16.67. So Watson would balance out my ownership. Debo's also at 16.67, so that would balance out the ownership. Jeudy, I only have 1 share in the main event, so that's we could go Jeudy as well. I think Debo already went, so that doesn't even matter. So
I feel like we're slightly trying to play a little bit of catch up at the wide receiver position. I think there's going to be a couple guys in rounds 5, 6, and 7 that are going to have kind of predictable volume, but I don't think we were looking at too many guys left on the board that have the potential ceiling outcome for Christian Watson has. So I love the idea of getting spike weeks out of him, especially with a team where if this is going the way we're planning it, Billy, we're going to have very predictable 2 15-plus point per game scores at the running back position, and with the tight end premium, a 15-plus point per game scorer at the tight end position as well. So I like taking a swing for the fences and going Watson over any kind of potential floor of Judy or Hopkins.
Okay, I'm on board with that. You don't need to talk me into Watson. I love Watson this year.
Okay, cool.
So if he's there, we can smash it.
Yeah, and you're seeing this is actually a Lamar Jackson falling. You're starting to see him go a couple picks earlier. A lot of these drafts, so someone's going to get a nice.
There it is.
Pick ahead of us.
That was the only other player I was really considering outside of 3 receivers we mentioned.
Yeah, and it would have been dangerous, but it still would have been. We're playing catch up at wide receiver. So here, I think we go.
I locked it for you.
Let's go Christian Watson. We're all locked in. So our team, if you're listening on a podcast right now, it's Saquon Barkley. We took the 107. The 206, we took Tony Pollard. The 307, we took Darren Waller, and then we just took Christian Watson as our wide receiver 1. We're very high on Watson. Billy's talked about him on First Class Fantasy a ton, but Dwayne McFarland came on Mind of Mansion, Billy, and he talked about 1,350 yards and 12 touchdown catches.
It's always nice to see Dwayne and I on the same page. We have very different strategies, but when our two philosophies mold into one vision and we agree on players and the numbers, it always is kind of a nice confirmation because we both have very strong beliefs and different way of attacking projections and analytics. And whenever we agree on players, it's nice to see. And then look at that. Jerry Jeudy's the very next pick, who was also in our queue. Drake London climbing up boards lately too, again.
Yeah, I took him. I'm in a main event right now with Andrew Schellenberg and Andrew Geller, the Guilds, two very, very good FFPC drafters. And when we took Drake London as well, I think we've talked about this before, Billy. I mean, there's going to be a very, very consolidated target tree in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. So even if there's a lack of volume, I think London, we really believe in the talent. So I'm willing to bet on him increasing his target total from last year. And, Kyle Pitts is not the guy that's the safest bet. So I think unless Pitts takes a big step forward, I think London is going to be very predictable. And it's just a bet on talent. We try to be as, I think you and Dario do such a great job with our projections. But at the end of the day in the NFL, sometimes the volume changes a little bit, especially when it comes to a player like London.
So I'm throwing a couple players in the queue on the way back. So we have Hopkins still in there. I doubt he makes it back. We know we need to attack the receiver position. So if you look at the rankings, Terry McLaurin's the next one down, but has that turf toe. I'm kind of passing on him. Godwin,
Billy, he might be there in the 6th round when we pick as well.
So I was going to ask, where are you on Jahan Dotson? Because I love Jahan Dotson already. And now that we have some turf toe Terry, love the alliteration there. Turf toe Terry. With turf toe Terry, Jahan Dotson now, I gave him just 1.5% more on target share just because the uncertainty right now with turf toe Terry, and it moved Jahan Dotson up to wide receiver 31 in the rankings. Are you on board with that ranking, or do you think that's too high for the
No, I've been we've had Jahan Dotson higher than a lot of sites do in our Dynasty rankings. And in redraft, I've been pounding the table for him. He was also, I wrote an article. He was my prediction for breakout wide receiver a couple months ago. I'm big on Jahan Dotson. I do think the 507 though. Not sure, Billy. I'll say
it's a little rich, but he's climbing. I mean, he's climbed. I did 3 best balls yesterday. I've done 2 today. And he's been going about a round above ADP in all of them. I mean, I've definitely, helped that by taking him around early in a few of them. But he seems to be climbing just because of the turf toe injury. And we already knew, I mean, he had 7 touchdowns last year. Don't quote me. I think that's the number.
Yeah, 7 touchdowns. He finished tied with Christian Watson for the lead.
Missed games. I mean, he could develop into the wide receiver 1 for this offense.
I think I completely agree with you. I'll say this. I think that there's a chance that he comes back in the 6th round.
There is.
It's a slight chance. I'm comfortable with, in our queue right now, I have Deontay Johnson, Brandon Ayuk, and Jahan Dotson.
Yeah, I like Deontay Johnson a lot. I'd be a lock for me if he comes in.
So if Deontay's there at the 507, he also kind of balances out Christian Watson, where
boom and targets.
The Packers offense could be, week to week, you have the spike weeks from Watson, and then once in a while you have an annoying Packers score 17 points type situation as a team. So I think,
wow, James Cook 5-3.
That's James Cook is just steaming, man. He's absolutely steaming.
Dude, I miss the days I get him around 8.
I know. I think it's Deontay Johnson here, Billy. If you want to push up Jahan Dotson, we absolutely can. I think we're going to get a wide receiver our next 2 picks. So
let's gamble. Let's see if he makes it back. I mean, he's still a good distance down on the rankings chart. He might get pushed up by some sharp drafters, but if he does, then I know for tomorrow's main event draft that I have that I just need to take him in round 5 now. But I want to see if I can get him in round 6. So I'm fine.
Yeah. I don't want to be your experiment though. Let's take our best possible build. I don't want to be the test run. This is the draft you win $1 million with. This is not your test run draft.
So Theo, speaking of test run, I guess. Oh, there goes Deontay Johnson. That kind of hurts.
Okay, so Billy, it comes down to me. It's a Brandon Ayuk versus Jahan Dotson thing. Unless you like, and I think in the 6th round you're going to have exposure to a number of wide receivers. Oh, gosh. Is there a pivot here that's non-wide receiver that really intrigues you a lot too? Because I don't want to get our hand forced. I don't really see one here at the 507 that gives us an edge though. Unless you wanted to, I'll just say we both love Justin Herbert.
We do like Justin Herbert. Just the problem is we don't have any pieces to go with it, but we could take Everett later and have a second tight end.
Yes.
I don't absolutely love it.
I think that the most dangerous pick for our build is Brandon Ayuk, but again, he might be there at the 606 as well. You don't know how this is going to play out. So
yeah, but we could own Ayuk and we could own Jahan Dotson both.
So then let's game theory that out. Then the pick would be Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, the pick is probably Brandon Ayuk, or we lean into the tight end position and go Kittle here and have double tight end. I just don't love double tight end.
I don't love double tight end either. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure I'm
in on Kittle or Pitts.
I've been
wanting to own
Ayuk, so it's like
I've been wanting to own Ayuk more. Let's go ahead and go Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the 5th, I'll throw ADP out the window because of our build. We need to have wide receiver production. And also I think that it's a little more flat than people think. The mid 5th down to the early 7th, you can find, great value all throughout that range. And, draft to draft guys have been moving a little bit. So I don't know, the whole Kittle situation though, Billy, it's like
due for regression.
Yeah. And I want to like Debo and I want to like Ayuk in as many drafts as possible. I don't think that they're going to support 3 hits at ADP. So I think more likely than not, I'm going to fade the oldest one in Kittle.
Yep. And Kittle blocks a lot. They're going to need him on the field blocking. Debo is electric, but is, always an injury risk. Brandon Ayuk had a very quiet 1,000-yard season last year. He showed to have chemistry with Purdy as well. And so I like Ayuk. And if anything were to happen to Purdy, Sam Darnold actually will push the ball down the field to Brandon Ayuk. So I like Brandon Ayuk. I've been wanting to own more of him. He's kind of a hard player to own. He kind of goes all over the place. It's one of those players like you either have to take him like we did there a little early to own him, because if you try to finesse him, you just don't ever get him.
It's funny though, I'm a big, we've talked about this on First Class Fantasy a lot about how I like vibes when guys have the beat reporters, their teammates, and the coaching staff kind of in unison, kind of singing their praises. and talking up how they've been looking, that's the kind of guy that I like to listen to that kind of stuff on. I think you hear a lot of fluff. Random beat reporters want to say something, and I kind of ignore that. But when it's universal, I take it all in, Billy. And Brandon Ayuk, they've been talking up all offseason. He looks unguardable. The defensive backs, the coaching staff, the beat reporters. I mean, you got to feel good as a 49ers fan about having a healthy Debo and an Ayuk.
Yeah, it's great. The only hesitation with any of them, honestly, is just the lack of pass attempts. San Francisco, inside my own projections, and I bleed red and gold, is bottom 10 in the league in pass attempts. And so I'm not super confident in the amount of volume anybody will see, but that Kyle Shanahan's gonna dish up some creative plays. There's going to be some explosive plays, and it's going to be a pretty high-powered offense. So they've shown to be very efficient with the limited opportunities that they have on a week-to-week basis, and you can't ask for much more than that. So if we have a few games, we might have a few more shootouts and might have a few more attempts, and that's all going to be better for San Francisco and for fantasy purposes. So I don't mind Brandon Ayuk there at all. Like I said, I've been wanting to own more. I don't own a lot of Brandon Ayuk, actually. Just because I find myself typically taking a running back in this area because I've usually start receiver. And so this is a phenomenal ownership and roster balance for me in terms of my diversification in my portfolio, because looking at my numbers, I only own 3% Brandon Ayuk. Darren Waller is sub 10%. Right. And so these are players that I'm high on, but just based upon where their ADP is, I don't own them all the time because of the way that I typically construct rosters.
Yeah, it's great to get exposure. And I think that's one of the things where if you split teams, I think it kind of sometimes opens you up to different sort of builds. I split with you. I split a team with Nelson Sousa. I split with Andrew Schellenberg, Dan Williamson, Biplap Mandel. The other day on press coverage, we split a team with Abibag Batoba and Scott Barrett. So it's you get exposure to these guys that, maybe you wouldn't. And sometimes you also, just by having a conversation with you, Billy, we kind of open each other's eyes up to consideration for this guy, maybe a range you weren't considering him and that sort of thing. So it's great to have partners you trust and enjoy drafting with. Let's talk about this pick, though. I think it's a smash for Jahan Dotson. If he goes in these next two selections, what is our pivot?
Well, there's one of them. I was going to say, if he makes it all the way back, I don't even like him, but we might need to consider him there. So I'm glad that is gone, because I didn't really want him on my team, but it was one of those points where he's falling. Yeah.
We took him in this exact spot. I took him at the 605 the other night. And it's
not crazy about it, but I think that at that point, at least it's into consideration now. If Jahan Dotson goes here first and foremost, I'm going to beat my table and turn off my mic.
I'll throw out one name to you that I think is interesting. If Jahan Dotson goes, I think.
Oh, he made it. Doesn't even matter.
Okay, he's here. I'll tell you who I was. Jahan Dotson's an easy pick for us right here. Jahan Dotson, our wide receiver 3. We have covered up at wide receiver very, very well. But I was going to say, I do think Rachaad White in a flex spot with his receiving upside in that offense would be somebody I kind of like in this range, even in a 2 running back build. I think it kind of takes the pressure off of him. It's more of a luxury pick, but if it hits, you could potentially have 3, top 12 running backs if they're all catching passes like we expect them to.
Yeah. And you don't have to, I mean, we're filling flex spots right now. So you can go either way. I like Jahan Dotson there. It gives us another out at the receiver position just in case. I believe in Christian Watson as a talent, and I believe that this Green Bay offense can be better than people expect. And so I believe he's going to be in our starting lineup week to week. But if we're wrong, it gives us another out to move Jahan Dotson up to the wide receiver spot as well.
What do you think about the notion of, I take Christian Watson, I take him early, and then I also want to get a little bit of exposure to Romeo Doubs on the same build, betting on the offense, or potentially a Jaden Reed, way late? Because my argument would be, Billy, if Christian Watson misses, it means one of those other 2 guys has a season. I don't see a scenario where it's complete split. I think one, asking Jordan Love to be a dispersal quarterback who spreads the ball out to everyone, for a young guy that hasn't started in the NFL, I usually think they tend to have a little bit of tunnel vision to their top options. So I'm open to taking Reed late. And if Dubs falls to a certain spot, potentially taking him as well. What are your thoughts on that sort of strategy?
I'm fine with it. I think you're limiting your upside, but I think it's a fine play if you want to play it safe. You know, I would much rather just have conviction in a guy and take him. Like I would rather build Christian Watson teams and then build Romeo Dubs teams rather than take them both in the same team. I would probably say I'm more inclined to take like a Musgrave on the same team because
that's a great point. Touchdown earner.
Yeah, touchdown earner, number one. Number two, we're getting the 1.5 PPR. And then if Watson does bust, it's going to be probably mixed around between the three of those other, individuals. And at least now you're getting 1.5 PPR and you're getting it at a much later cost. On top of it, now, I don't want to throw sand in the face here or salt in the wounds, but beginning of main event season, I have round 14 Romeos that I can't build anymore, and I'm not taking him anymore because of that. So like I have one round 13, one round 14 in main events. I can't take him anymore because I saw him going around 10, so I'm going around 11. And at this point now, I'm not beating my own team, so there's no reason for me to take him anymore.
I think that's an interesting philosophical look, and I would push back, Billy, that at the end of the day, you still need to win this league or do well enough in this league to get through.
That's a good point.
So that's kind of like we Dan Williamson and JD, you came on the GOAT District a million times when we did these high stakes roundtables. Dave Hubbard, Nelson Sousa, Chris Ebel, Chad Schroeder, you name it, B-Bag Batoba. And that's one of the things we've talked about is when you have a situation where a guy shoots up big time in ADP and you have exposure to him at a lower, how much exposure do you need to have of him to kind of start passing up on him when you get these major contests? And I think you'll see, two sides of the coin represented on that answer, and some high stakes drafters take the opposite approach of you. Some will say, I'm completely agree with Billy. Once I have 8th round exposure to a guy, I'm not taking him in the 5th, no matter what. But I think you might get down to it in Vegas and want James Cook. And at the end of the day, take him.
Well, I think it just really determines like what percentage you own of them too, right? If I only own 9-12% of them, like, okay, I might chase him up the board a little bit. But if I have, like right now, I have him on 2 teams in round 13 to 14, and it's of my 8 teams. So like literally, what was that, 20% or 25% of my rosters have round 13 or 14 Romeo. I don't need to chase him up the board to get him over 30%. And so,
Billy, we're one pick out though. Let's talk about this pick.
It's not Romeo Dobbs.
We can go back to no, it's definitely not. We can go back to the wide receiver well here, or we can go with the running back spot.
Miles Sanders is in there.
Miles Sanders here, I think, is fine. He's back at practice.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily see a wide receiver with Jackson Smith and Jigba's injury that I want to like pound the table for. Like Hollywood Brown and Pittman, one of those two will be there at the 806.
This is a pretty clearly Miles Sanders pick for me. Like,
yeah,
I think it's a tier break down below him.
You don't have to twist my arm. Like Miles Sanders in the flex is predictable volume every single week.
Great.
And these Bryce Young is not going to be taking a ton of chances this year. I think they're going to be a very conservative offense. They have a great defense. And I think that Miles Sanders is a good pick in the 7th round. And I actually think Chuba Hubbard is also a good pick when you get him in the 14th round, because I think that those running backs are going to be what they're leaning on. It's obviously Miles Sanders, but if Miles Sanders misses time, I think it's going to be Chuba. So I'm glad we got him there. Certainly not the most exciting pick, but definitely predictable.
I mean, it's pretty exciting in round 7. I love Miles Sanders this year. Like I think I have him inside by top 20 at the position, and we got him at RB28.
No, I took him the other night there. I think that it's more of, for me, it's like, when I say exciting, like I get excited for Christian Watson. Like for Miles Sanders, I'm like, okay, he's gonna get it done running back. He's
you know what I am excited though about?
We
have 7 draft picks in, and we have 4 degrees of separation on 13 people in the field, and then we have 5 degrees of separation on 106 people inside the field, and then we have 6 degrees of separation on the rest of the field, which is 397 teams, Theo.
I love it, Billy. We're going to be very unique with this build. And like Andrew Schellenberg sometimes says, unique is not always a good thing. Unique for this team is a good thing, you know?
It's...
Zay Flowers goes off the board. You're starting to see him start to live in the 7th round. We saw the other day with the JSN news, the McLaurin news. It's going to make these wide receivers that you used to be able to get in the 8th round. They're going to go in the 7th. And then you're going to see your 7th round guys start to go in the 6th. We showed it with Jahan Dotson. If we were drafting 14 days ago, Billy, 10 days ago, we could have gotten Jahan Dotson in the 7th potentially. Those days are over.
They're gone.
And if you get him in the 7th, maybe you get him at like the 702. But I think he'll be living in the 6th by the time we get to Vegas.
I think he's going to be living the 6th pretty much this week. Like it's already happening in best ball main events. There's less volume, so it's not as like the ADP doesn't chase the board as fast. And so I think that we're going to see a lot more round 7. A lot more round 6. Jahan Dotson. I've seen him go back to back now with Terry McLaurin in 2 drafts today alone, and I think it's going to be a pretty common thing.
So I think we're back to the wide receiver well, more likely than not, in the 8th round here, Billy. Who are a couple guys standing out to you? I'll say that it's a little bit boring. Michael Pittman at the 806, Hollywood Brown at the 806. You could potentially see them have a huge target share. And then when you get away from that, I don't know, the position starts to dry up a little bit. So where are you at for this one?
This is where I think we can get pretty flexible because we already have 3 running backs or 3 receivers. We're actually fairly balanced right now. I like Sky Moore. I like Michael Pittman.
I like Pittman if he's there. I'll also throw out that I'm not completely opposed to a running back.
Yeah, if James Conner makes it there, I'd be intrigued. Yeah.
James Conner, I agree with you. He would be a somewhat similar bet to Miles Sanders in a lesser offense, but a guy who's going to be living on volume. And Conner also showed a little bit of receiving ability in a few seasons. And I think that based on the lack of weapons in Arizona, or really, I think the fact that Michael Wilson's going to be on the field a lot to start out, some youth out there, they're going to definitely throw dump downs to James Conner, and his volume could be exactly like it was to end last season. So
there's always the sayings you hear is, who is this year's Josh Jacobs, right? You hear it all the time. There's really only one candidate for me that could be this year's Josh Jacobs, and that's James Conner. It's a guy that has who's constantly like going later in drafts, like round 7, round 8, is the RB1 on his team, but is in this situation that no one really wants anything to do with him. But based on his contract and based on everything else that's there, is the guy that if he stays healthy could just see this enormous workload because they have an out on his contract next year and they could, chop bait without having really any investment in him or any like repercussions of running him into the ground. And so Conner, not necessarily the model of health and consistency, but this year,
this is the team we need to get by, Billy. This is the team that should take Conner based on their build. They don't have a single running back. If they don't take Conner, I think we're getting him.
It's a possibility. Not twice, only has 2 as well. But this team definitely needs a running back. Like this should be an instant lock for him.
This is an auto pick. In fact, if this team should have gone Dalvin Cook or Conner in the 7th round with this build, you would have really liked that team.
Yeah.
I don't see how Muth gives you a huge advantage.
You take Pitts there. Now you're saying that you're questioning your Pitts pick by taking Freiermuth.
Yeah, that's
you can't even start them both because you have Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, AJ Brown, and Diggs. So one of them is going to be benched every week, unless you decide to sit one of those 4 receivers.
There goes AJ Dillon. So we're 1 pick away from Conner. If Conner is gone, then Michael Pittman will be there for us. So this is really a kind of a perfect situation here, Billy.
Yeah, you're guaranteed
Pittman or Conner will be our pick. And now if Pittman and Conner are both there sitting for us, which way do you want to go?
I probably lean Conner for the volume. Pittman, I like the player, but I'm not crazy about the situation. They're both there. There we go.
Okay, so now we have the situation we're talking about. It's James Conner versus Michael Pittman.
I'm probably going to go with the for sure points. I like Connor's upside. I think that he has more upside than Pittman this year based upon the volume. Pittman scares me just because I don't have faith in Anthony Richardson this year.
Neither do I. I don't have a whole lot of faith in him either. But I do think that Pittman. I took Pittman the other day.
Let's look at the players coming back. So I lean Connor, but on the way back, I mean, we're going to be weak at receiver, but you could take a Dalton Kincaid, and then now you have another option instead of now you could rotate 3 receivers between the 2 receiver spots, and you could flex.
Let's go Connor. And I think that Connor here also will open us up to a few of these wide receivers that maybe we don't have a whole lot of exposure of, that people are really kind of fading. But I think there are some intriguing younger players in the next couple rounds at receiver as well. And I'll say that I love Kincaid, but Billy, I've seen Kincaid go in the 7th round in 2 mains this week. I don't think he'll be there for us in the 9th round at the 907.
But it's a possibility, but unlikely.
And then Pittman goes 1
spot. Burks might make it back.
Yeah, Treylon might be there.
Cortland Sutton, maybe.
Yeah,
unlikely, but maybe. You have.
Sky
I'm
Moore.
Look at other names. Sky Moore is gone.
Sky Moore, we got at the 901.
Sky Moore's gone.
Sky Moore's gone. Okay.
He will be gone. There's no way.
He will be gone.
But then, I mean, this opens you up to, I mean, this is where you could look at it, a build, and say, hey, my weakness is receiver, but because I have 3, I could rotate them into the receiver spot, and I could start a second tight end in the flex, because maybe the pick on the way back is I know that, Kincaid's probably gone, but if he's there, the pick is probably Kincaid. For whatever reason David Njoku fell, the pick is probably David Njoku. If Tyler Higbee's there, he's even up for discussion for me because of the volume that he's going to see. And so I think, even though I don't like going double tight end early, this isn't early enough to where I think it's going to hinder us. It gives us flexibility at the position. It's going to create some start-sit nightmares, in my opinion, but at the same time, it gives us a lot of outs in terms of being weak at a position where we can regain some of that strength at another position.
So in our queue right now, we are 8 picks out.
There goes your boy.
And there goes Kincaid. That's my guy. It makes me very happy to hear you wanting to draft Dalton Kincaid now, Billy. I feel like I may be a tad partially responsible for that, but it makes me happy to see you and Dan Williamson and all these people on Kincaid now. So
I've been against rookie tight ends for my entire fantasy career, but we are starting to see
he's a rookie wide receiver. He's basically a wide receiver.
That's where I'm going with this. We're starting to see more tight ends be used as like this jumbo X and less in line as a blocker, where this is where the rookies struggle because they're learning pass protection, they're learning routes, where now they only have to learn one part of the offense, which is just the route tree. And then, yes, they can pick up the blocking as they go, but they're not going to be used in line as much. And they're still going to see the snaps in the route aspect, maybe less on blocking, but they're being used in the same, fashion that we need from a fantasy perspective. So we're starting to see more and more teams do this. We're hearing about, Porta this way. We saw it with, Kyle Pitts in his rookie season. And so Dalton Kincaid, again, in an offense that we love, where they lack a true wide receiver too. And if he's used as this jumbo X tight end, he has a real possibility to finish inside the top 12. And
yeah, and Billy,
I was overanalyzing it. And because I'm so fine-tuned on numbers, I think it was Cooper who kind of laid it out and just said the difference between tight end 10 and tight end 15 is X amount of fantasy points. And I'm like, well, yeah, he's right. And so on a week-to-week basis, it's nothing, where the upside is enormous. So it's worth the risk.
At the end of the day, Billy, if we start looking at the tight ends in this range that can get 90 targets, it's very, very short list. And Tyler Higbee can get 90 targets in a much worse offense. So we see team 1 goes Mike Evans in the 7th, Sky Moore in the 8th, Quentin Johnson in the 9th. I had Quentin Johnson, I had Sky Moore, and I had Cortland Sutton in the queue. Right now, we're 3 picks out. And in the queue was I had Elijah Moore would be my preferred choice here.
Me as well.
And Njoku, and then Treylon Burks. So we're going to get one of those 3 unless you want to consider one more.
No, Elijah Moore was at the top of my list behind Sky Moore. So, and Dalton Kincaid. So I'm happy if he makes it back here. because
Yeah,
he's already back on the field.
I think that Elijah Moore is definitely the slam dunk pick for me here. And Njoku versus a slightly banged up Treylon Burks, where we don't necessarily know when he's going to get a full usage, but he's still super intriguing for our build because he helps us catch up at wide receiver. I still am.
We're guaranteed one of them now.
Okay, we're guaranteed. So let's hope it's Elijah Moore and we don't have to have this conversation.
Yep. Chad might pick him off here.
Chad probably takes him.
I don't know though. We'll see. David Njoku might be too much of a discount for him to pass on him.
So it's the Njoku versus Burks here is an interesting argument. We would be completely done at tight end if we had Njoku and Darren Waller, in my opinion, which is a nice thing. We wouldn't feel any pressure unless there was a great value there.
And we're getting about a round of value in Njoku, but it's based upon the information we're hearing out of camp that there you go.
Okay, so Elijah Moore goes. So Treylon Burks versus Njoku. I hate passing up on him, but I feel like Treylon Burks helps us really recover at wide receiver. And one of my preferred wide receivers at the 10:06 would be Romeo Doubs. So you're not necessarily into using 2 top 10 draft picks on Packers wide receivers. I think Bateman could be there in the 10th, which I'm into as well. Billy, which way do you want to go here with Njoku versus Burks?
I think because we have Waller, we sure up at the position and take Treylon Burks. We don't have to rely on him at the beginning of the season because we have Jahan Dotson and Sanders or Connor that we can put into the flex. So we could go Treylon Burks here, and we don't need to use him right away.
Let's take Treylon Burks, and it's it's somewhat of a tilting selection. We're happy to get either of those guys there, but Billy, this is like a sliding doors. It's a sliding doors decision. Like when you look back at how this draft turns out, Treylon Burks versus David Njoku could have been a really big decision for us. If Njoku has like a top 5 season and he catches 10 touchdowns or 9 touchdowns, we're gonna potentially regret this pick. But I do think that Treylon Burks, he's
the other thing though, real quick. Sorry to interrupt you, but the right side of the board is very purple heavy, and so there's a possibility that maybe Njoku doesn't make it back, but maybe Schultz does.
That's a good point. I think that there's team number 8 looking at their build. They're already on a 2 running back team. They're already kind of a very fragile build at the running back spot. I think they'll probably go tight end too. But if we survive that team, Njoku might come back to us.
Yeah,
and he takes Billy. And he takes Laporta there.
Sam motherfucking Laporta. Let's go.
Laporta is steaming up like crazy.
So much.
And Billy, I'll say another nice thing about Laporta is you get that free look. You get that free look with Laporta. It's very enticing in a short season like the FFPC main event to have exposure to these Detroit Lions where you get.
You want to know the cheapest free look there is?
I know who it is. It's your guy.
Who?
Well, the cheapest free look there is Josh Reynolds.
That's okay. That's cheap too. That's free as well. But there's one more that is actually kind of sneaky because no one thinks about it because it doesn't really matter. But at the same time, it could make a difference week 1. Any guesses?
Who is this, Billy?
Riley Patterson, the kicker.
Oh, Patterson. Yeah, I've been doing that. We've been taking Riley Patterson.
It's like if he doesn't do anything, you just drop him Sunday morning and get another kicker.
100%. But I will say this, Billy, for everybody going to Vegas doing drafts, do not leave your waivers up till Sunday morning. Stay up late. Do them Saturday night, and do your lineup setting too. A lot of times in Vegas, you deal with potential Wi-Fi issues when you're running around trying to get from place to place. Do not wait till the last minute. It is 10 a.m. on the West Coast time. Billy's hardened veteran. He's used to the West Coast grind. But for my East Coast people, Saturday night, don't have too good a time. Get your lineup set. You've put so much into these drafts. Make sure you're good to go. You see Alan Lazard go in the 9th round, Billy. I would not really like Alan Lazard even in the 11th round, 12th round.
No, I'm good off Alan Lazard.
Yeah, I don't need any Alan Lazard. I just, I don't like that pick that much. I've heard some people drafting him now, especially with the Corey Davis thing, but I don't know. He's never had more than 100 targets, and he's next to Garrett Wilson, and we don't need to go into Alan Lazard. But talking about some of these teams, we're sitting here about to pick at the 10 07. And we have an opportunity to potentially get David Njoku here. He could fall. Every team left has at least one tight end. And the teams that are single tight end builds have George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, and Dallas Goedert. So guys they feel pretty comfortable in. So Billy and I, we have a Darren Waller build, but getting it David Njoku in the 10th round would be like the most awesome thing. And we see Romeo Doubs go off the board, Billy, a guy
I'm
that
saying you can't take him.
Yeah.
I can't take him in round 9 when I have round 14 shares. I can't do it.
I totally get what you're saying. Totally get what you're saying. Those round 14 Romeo Doubs shares are sweet.
Really sweet.
So we're just playing the waiting game here, and let's have a couple of contingent plays. Also, Billy, with this build where we've leaned so hard into Waller and Barkley, I want to take Daniel Jones about a round ahead of ADP.
Yeah, we could definitely do that.
Yeah,
he's typically going. Oh, man, where does he go? It's like rounds. Is it like 13?
Yeah, it's we'll just have to keep an eye on it. Like as soon as Tua and Anthony Richardson are selected, then we have to keep our radars on because those two guys are definitely going to go ahead of Daniel Jones. And you don't know if people are going to try to block this stack, which people do in these main events.
This guy could go to Njoku because he just took Watson.
So he takes Kadarius Toney.
I have a feeling this guy's going to take Njoku. He just took Watson. He's probably
Billy. I'm putting Rashad Bateman in the queue.
Yeah, I'm interested in Bateman.
Yeah, and I think Bateman helps him make
a high upside play.
Yeah. Tight end wise, I'm going to put Dalton Schultz in the queue.
David Njoku's in the queue. I put my boy Kenny Gainwell in there. Look at that. So we're guaranteed now Njoku or Schultz because two guys to our right have two tight ends right now. And there we go. George Kittle team pass on him.
That's awesome. So we're going to get David Njoku in the 10th round unless something goofy happens right here.
Yeah, these guys could take 3. Who knows?
Billy, I put one more player just for us to talk about after we make the pick, but I put Tank Bigsby in the queue as maybe the best handcuff option in football.
I like Bigsby. So Theo, if we do get David Njoku here, it looks like one of 2 shares in the entire tournament in round 10.
Billy, we run pure, man. We're the only Garrett Wilson Jamar Chase team.
Oh my God, he took
Juwan
a 30.
Johnson.
Took Juwan Johnson.
Yeah, Juwan Johnson. There was the Saints beat reporters are all over him. They're saying draft him in fantasy. This is a big part of the offense. So there's going to be a lot of late Juwan Johnson, but I can't take Juwan Johnson over David Njoku. I can't do it.
I can't either. I mean, even Dalton Schultz, for me, it's hard to take Juwan Johnson ahead of him. I mean, I might mix it in, but Schultz could be the leading target.
Schultz is last year's Higbee. And there's like all the beat reporters are saying that's the most probable guy to lead the team in targets. You also have the rookie quarterback. We talk about tunnel vision from the rookie quarterbacks. You also talk about, safe reads and a safe design on the offense. And Dalton Schultz can be a safety blanket for him. He might have the most targets he's ever had. He probably will.
Looking at ADP, Daniel Jones actually goes around 11. I just haven't drafted him in the main event, so.
But again, I don't.
Oh my God, we got Njoku in round 10. Just smash it. I'm not even. There we go. Done.
Take it. Okay, so we to recap our team. We're halfway through the draft, and
let's go, Theo!
Listen, we're running pure. Saquon Barkley in the first round. Tony Pollard in the second round. Darren Waller in the third round. Then we went 3 straight wide receivers: Christian Watson, Brandon Ayuk, Jahan Dotson. Very dangerous upside wide receivers with touchdown scoring potential. Miles Sanders in the 7th round, a very good value for us. An incredible value with James Conner and Miles Sanders back-to-back. Then Treylon Burks we took in the 9th round. After a lot of soul searching, we went with the structural choice. Then we get David Njoku in the 10th. So we have incredible ADP values on Miles Sanders, James Conner. Very good value on Burks where you get him that late in the 9th. And then David Njoku, incredible value. So
this team has juice,
really
Theo. This team's got juice. I knew Chad was going to snap Schultz. That was obvious.
Yeah. So
oh my God.
Yeah, we're feeling good about this team. Now, Billy, it comes down to it. Like, let's look at this team structurally. I worry about
0-4 4-2 is where we're sitting right now.
So structurally, in the sense that we like quarterback is the one position we haven't taken, and we have 2 giants. I will say that I feel really safe. I don't know if we push it to try to take him in the 11th. I think we can, though, because
the only problem is if we don't, the right-hand side,
Tua.
So Tua's there, but
and Anthony Richardson's there. So at the end of the day, I feel
Dak is there.
And Dak is there. And let's look at the correlation. So team 12 without a quarterback does not have anybody to really, there's not. But team 11, they took Deshaun Watson, so Dak is going to be kind of off their radars. Team 10, Billy, team 10 looks like that. If I'm an Anthony Richardson drafter, I mean, actually, team 10 doesn't really know what they're doing at all. You see where they took Kirk Cousins? So, shout out to team 10. Apologies to you guys. I don't know who you are, but I highly recommend Fantasy Mojo. It'll be your best friend, or get the all-in package at Player Profiler and check out our ADP for FFPC. But
and our cheat sheets.
That was.
You know what I can tell you? I can tell you that Kirk Cousins isn't fucking in our round 7 our cheat sheets.
I will tell you that Kirk Cousins in the round 7 is it's not going to win you too much money. You're not winning $1 million on that. It's the definition of not playing. It's playing the ADP game wrong. So
look at that. We started a tight end run too, dude.
It's very purple. And another thing that's interesting, Billy, and for anybody drafting in your home leagues, consider Luke Musgrave late. Like the money is all over Luke Musgrave. Luke Musgrave goes in the 10th round here. Billy, is this his main event high? I believe it is, without even checking.
10th round. I can let me pull it up 1 second.
So Luke Musgrave here goes off the board ahead of Chigakonkwo.
His high right now is about 10-9-ish. Where do you go here?
So we're seeing the high. So about Luke Musgrave.
Yeah.
So Luke Musgrave went in the 12th round of a NFFC primetime non-tight end premium.
Oh,
there's people that are going all in, and I'll say Dwayne McFarlane, our friend Dwayne McFarlane, has been getting people extremely hyped for Luke Musgrave like whenever he can. So like he's definitely pumping the brakes, and I feel like the high stakes community does listen to Dwayne on a lot of stuff. And I'll say Jared Smola is also pounding the table for Luke Musgrave. And then I know a lot of drafters who really, really want to have a lot of Musgrave. He's going to be on the field all the time.
Yeah.
So let's talk about. Okay, so we have not seen another quarterback go off the board, Billy. I think
we can push it because there's not just Tua, but there's Dak and Anthony Richardson in front. And worst case scenario, for whatever reason, if either of these teams decide to pick Daniel Jones ahead of those players, we have a stack with Dak to go Tony Pollard as well.
Yes.
So we have an out at least in stacking if we want to stack the quarterback. And then if not, we can get down and dirty and we could go real late again, Theo, like we did last year, one of our teams.
I don't want to go that late. I don't want to go that late. That was the draft also with Chad Schroeder. Shout out to Chad. Billy, that team got a little bit off the rails at the end. We had a
Is that the team that he took like 5 of one position?
Yes. Billy and I were in a high stakes draft on a format that we don't need to talk about it, but there was we kept saying no one's going to take their QB2. Let's keep pushing quarterback.
Everybody took their QB2.
Everyone and like 1 or 2 players took a quarterback 3. Like it was literally to block us because we were so bold in our late QB strategy. So we ended up with like a train wreck at the quarterback position. I think we started like Matt Ryan week 1.
It was Matt Ryan. I told Theo we're going to be safe with Matt Ryan, buddy. Don't worry.
Matt Ryan week.
It was
week
definitely
1
worrisome.
Okay, so in our queue right now is Kenneth Gainwell, Daniel Jones, Nico Collins, and I put Odell Beckham in there, Billy.
Yeah, I leaned Kenny Gainwell here pretty heavily.
So I'm fine with that. Is there anybody we're missing out on? I think
Nico's the other one that I would consider.
Well,
I just don't know if he does anything for the team because we are starting the 3 we have, and we're probably rotating a tight end to the flex if we're not starting a receiver.
I personally lean Nico because I think we're going to like a lot of those running backs in the 13th round.
Okay.
And we're not going to like any of the wide receivers.
I own so much Gainwell that I'm fine going Nico here.
Let's go Nico Collins here. I think that this is a solid bet. And then will be Daniel Jones in the 12th round unless we're feeling really spicy.
And then we can take one more receiver. We don't need more than 6, and then we can panic grain.
I do like, and I think it's probably a guy that after a couple of weeks we let go on the waiver wire. But if there's a chance that it becomes a thing, is I do like when Jalen Hyatt's there in the 15th round with Daniel Jones. It's the one wide receiver that we really don't quite know yet. And I think that there's been so much positivity about his speed, his game-breaking ability. That's the kind of guy that, like, let's say he has a big usage jump after like week 6, and then down the stretch, he's the kind of guy that you'd want to consider in the flex. That would be the only other giant that I would really be like, we should add. And I'm not saying reach for him, but like 15th round, I think he's worth adding if we have a full-on giant stack. Where are you at on that?
I mean, if he got selected, I wouldn't really care, but okay. Yeah, sure. If you want to, I'm about it.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Billy, with the enthusiastic response. Well, Billy, guys, Billy, not a Jalen Hyatt guy, but neither am I really. But if we're completely,
I'm just not a giant receiver guy, is what it is. I just don't think it does anything for the team. I mean, sure, if you want to, I'm not gonna stop it. Like, I'll take him because I love you, Theo, and I'll take him for you. But I would never select Jalen Hyatt.
I like some of these third-round wide receivers are intriguing. We haven't really seen, like, Tyler Lockett's a third-round wide receiver, Deontay Johnson, Terry McLaurin, but it's been a complete train wreck from guys drafted in the 3rd round since 2019. But, like, you start painting a picture for some of these third-rounders this year, Billy. Like, I think Michael Wilson is one of the late intriguing wide receivers.
Take like a little Bob Ross painting, like, little touchdown over here.
You can paint yourself a picture. So Matt Kelly's on this train too with the 3rd rounders are going to have like their bounce back year because it's a pretty like it's a good group of receivers. So
look, the guy took a second quarterback already. Oh boy.
Okay. So team 12 is the danger zone for us here. If he takes Daniel Jones, then but we'll get Dak.
There's still Dak there. Yeah, I think.
And there's also Billy, potentially Anthony Richardson. And you have become a 2-quarterback build with an Anthony Richardson potential hammer here. We wouldn't even need him. We could go with more of a floor play. But we're going to get Daniel Jones. What am I even saying?
Yeah, so I'll take Anthony Richardson like round 15. Sure. Why not?
Yeah. We just need to dodge a couple round 15. Come on. We're going to take – it'll be Daniel Jones or Dak Prescott for us, and I think that's fine.
I think we'll get one of them. If we don't, then it's a sad day.
It's a very sad day. It's like a repeat of people seeming us. Team 12 doesn't know who he wants right now. He just took Tyjae Spears.
You'd think, though, like one of these teams like Jackson, Herbert, Cousins, they would take, if they're taking a second quarterback, Anthony Richardson fits the second quarterback mold. Or they're like me and they just don't think the kid's going to be that good year one. Yeah. And they might go Daniel Jones.
And I think that could absolutely happen, too. I just think it's.
This guy looks like he wants to take Goff.
He's certainly running it down to the wire here.
Yeah, he's deciding if he wants to take Goff and reach on it. Because he has got Amon-Ra.
What are we doing here, guys?
Ooh, he passed it. Oh,
okay, so we're safe. We're safe with Team 11. Team 10 is the wild card, Billy. Team 10 is the team.
What the fuck?
So he takes Dak. What is going on with these three quarterbacks? What's going on with these people? So Team 11 took Deshaun Watson in the 9th, Tua Tagovailoa in the 10th, and now Dak Prescott in the 12th.
You know what he did? He looked at his team and said, "F this. I can't compete. I'm just going to block people now."
It's and Billy, I will add that he has 3 wide receivers total.
He's got as many as quarterbacks. He's going to put his quarterback. It's not super flex here, buddy.
Not super flex. And I'll tell you what, the other half of the board is licking their chops because they know that value is going to fall to them now with some of the scoofiness.
Oh man, now I'm a little nervous about Daniel Jones.
Well, again, you
know what we do? If he goes, you're not going to like it, but we're going to push it and we're going to get down and dirty, Theo, and we're going to take. Theo's like, please don't even say it.
I'm looking at our build and I'm trying to think who you're going to suggest. You're going to suggest you're going to suggest potentially a Brock Purdy build or something weird.
I was going to say
Or
Sam Howell. Yeah. Sam Howell, Purdy, or Love.
Sam Howell has a little bit of juice. We're going to get Daniel Jones here.
I think worst case scenario, if Daniel Jones gets selected here, worst case scenario, I would gamble on Richardson this late and then just take another quarterback.
100%. I think Richardson here, and then you could take like Geno Smith or Jared Goff or something like that.
Yeah, where's Richardson? I don't ever draft this guy, but his latest is 13-12.
Yeah. I think we're going to get Daniel Jones here in the 12th safely. Just why don't this team is running?
Don't jinx us here. He's looking at our team. Oh, we got him.
So we're good. So we're going Daniel Jones here. Team is continuing.
We're going naked Jones, yeah?
I'm okay going naked Jones, but I don't mind taking a second quarterback when we don't take one this late.
There's going to be another quarterback on the waiver wire.
I like your idea, Billy, of Sam Howell because I'll say this.
Howell looks good, dude.
Sam Howell looks really good. He's got escapability. He's got an aggressive offense. And Eric Bieniemy is coaching for a job.
I've been talking about that all offseason, dude. Bieniemy is going to be the difference maker here. He's going to get creative.
And Bieniemy also, you have the factor that if the offense looks good but they're losing games, then Ron's going to get fired, and they're going to have Bieniemy take over as head coach midseason. And then the other out is Washington is like solid this year and scores a lot of points, and Bieniemy gets a job. So I think Sam Howell is interesting for us in this build. You could potentially add a Curtis Samuel, and if the McLaurin injury lingers, which it's turf toe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Turf toe, Terry.
And people push like we've seen turf toe affect athletes for a long extended time. So I think that a lot of it's like the team, trying to downplay everything. I don't know, Billy. I mean, turf toe is turf toe.
Turf toe is nasty. It's not like we used to see it where it would ruin careers. I mean, medication and rehab have come a long ways, but it's still not something to joke around with, especially from a position that needs to cut and gain separation from the defenders. So turf toe is a real thing, and it could linger for a long time this season. And I mean, I pretty comfortably would rather have Jahan Dotson ahead of Terry McLaurin. I was already on the fence about Jahan Dotson being closer to Terry McLaurin than people really wanted to admit. And now with the turf toe, like Jahan Dotson has a real chance to become the wide receiver one in this offense.
Yeah. And I think like Jahan Dotson, you talked about how effective he was scoring touchdowns. He also had 5 top 25 weeks in only 12 games played. He was relatively consistent for a team that, had some poor quarterback play. So, you get the Howell in there. I mean, Howell looks very good. And again, we talked about the offense, and I like the two-headed backfield with Gibson and Robinson. I think that's going to be pretty effective as well. So there's some stuff to like about Washington, Billy. I think that first game against Arizona, they might come out and just beat the hell out of the Cardinals and put a number on them. And you're going to see Sam Howell as a waiver wire. Like, Sam Howell's going to be a waiver wire addition after week 1 in a bunch of these home leagues is my prediction.
What's your take on Curtis Samuel this year? Because he's a pretty versatile player. Now with the injury to Terry McLaurin, probably going to be more involved, at least in the beginning of the season. But we've seen him take running back snaps. We've seen him use as a flanker. We've seen him kind of be utilized all over the field. I think he's much more of a best ball player than he is redraft, but
100%.
What's your take on Curtis Samuel?
Yeah, he's not a guy that I like to, draft and redraft at all. But I do think if we're potentially trying to build a secondary stack and also Billy, where we're going to have to take McLaurin, he's a guy, if we had to cut him after week 2, we wouldn't care. We're going to be grinding the waiver wire a ton. So to see his usage, like last year, we didn't predict him to get that many touches. In certain matchups, I think he's going to get manufactured touches. And
you mean we don't Samuel, know, right? Not McLaurin. You said McLaurin, but you meant Samuel.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I meant Curtis Samuel. In certain games, they're going to scheme him, and we also don't know the extent of like they like De'Ami Brown and they're talking up De'Ami Brown, but how comfortable are they with him as their wide receiver 4 who hasn't done a whole lot in his career? So I don't know. I'm not pounding the table for him. I do think that we talked earlier about adding a another wide receiver from Green Bay or potentially Musgrave, I will say that Jaden Reed is still on the board. And Jaden Reed would be an intriguing guy. I know Matt Harmon's really high on him. And I know you like him, and I like him as well. And he gives us kind of a little bit of correlation with Watson. It's if Watson doesn't hit, it could be because Jaden Reed is such a reliable target earner. So would you consider him in this build?
I'd consider him this build. Yeah.
Cool.
I think we really only need one more receiver.
Agreed.
So if Jaden Reed's it, I'm fine with it. Let's count.
I put
anybody
Zamir
else?
White. I put Zamir White in the queue.
I'm just looking to see if there's anybody else here that we have to have.
I don't see a difference maker that we'd want to take as tight end 3. To me, it's a running back or a wide receiver.
Yeah, or if you want to go elite defense, which we don't have to.
I don't think we have to. I think you can still get an elite defense in the 14th round here.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I'll say when he starts to fall, Damian Harris becomes interesting. Even if he's slow out the gate with injuries, but I do think Zamir White I would lean to. And I think there's a chance that we could get Zamir White at the 1307 and then Jaden Reed at the 1406.
Yeah, I think you're more likely to get Reed there. Fucking Chad found him. God damn it, Chad.
Okay, so Chad found Zamir White. So I am somewhat open here. This would be slightly early for Jaden Reed, but I do see the running back room as kind of flat. And I think the guy that we like at here in the running back room, we might get in the next pick.
Yeah, and the thing about it is like the guys in the running back room, like Damian Harris, Ty Chandler, Jerome Ford, they're kind of all in that same tier for me. Devin Singletary, like I would be fine with any of those guys. Where the receiving position, like Rondale Moore, I'm okay with, but I like the Jaden Reed pick. Let's go ahead and lock in Jaden Reed.
Yeah, let's lock in Jaden Reed, and we get another another good structure. Yeah, so we get upside, and we also get some structure and a double bet on Green Bay.
And now we're done at receiver.
We're done. Yeah, so now we can look at running backs. We can look at a third tight end with upside. We could look at a QB2 a little later on, and we're really just going to hammer running backs. 1406, Billy. Devin Singletary's interesting. Very interesting. Ty Chandler's interesting. Jerome Ford is interesting. Damian Harris, if he falls, is interesting.
Yep, I like all those guys. You can throw them all in the queue.
I've been selecting a lot of Kyron Williams, but later.
Yeah, I've liked Kyron like around 16, 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's the third down back in that offense, honestly.
Yep. And I think that if there was an injury to Akers, I think he'd have, a lot of weekly work.
I do too. Yeah, he's been one of my favorite handcuffs this year.
I was in on him last year as well. Tight end wise, 14th round.
I don't think we need one, but we could take one. But we don't need one. We have, 2 top 12 tight ends, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have liked taking Mayer late when he falls to round 16. There's some decent reports on him about how he needs to improve his blocking, but they view him as such a – what's that?
That's a given. I mean, it's really tight end.
100%. But every takeaway is he's such a good receiver. So I'm slightly interested in Mayer. I've always been slightly interested in Hayden Hurst because I think he could be he could be the more predictable target earner in that offense.
I don't think so think about it though. Hayden Hurst is going drafted.
I don't want to take him here in the 14th. I think
no. I get it, but Hayden Hurst is still being drafted in like the 15th round, right? And so you could take Hayden Hurst as your third tight end that's probably never going to see the field on this team, or you could take upside shots at running back that could be home run hitters like Ty Chandler, or it could be a home run hitter like Deuce Vaughn, could be a home run hitter like Jerome Ford and Damian Harris, the two guys we talked about went right after we discussed them. But these are the kind of plays that I like taking in this area because we're never going to start Hurst on this team. Like we have enough pieces at running back and at receiver to where he's never going to see the flex spot. We would have to lose 2 tight ends ahead of him to even consider to be sniffed as a tight end. So it's very unlikely we would even start Hurst the entire season unless he's just a monster that we don't see coming. Where somebody like Kate Otten goes nearly undrafted or around 18 or 19. So if you really wanted a third tight end, you could just add somebody like him, who's the starting tight end on the team that just saw some consolidated targets based upon the Russell Gage news, who's going 3 to 4 rounds later. And so I'd rather pass on tight end altogether throughout the rest of the draft. But if we were going to take one, I'd say around 18, 19, or 20.
Yeah, no, I'm good going with a 2 tight end build. I think anytime I take one of these early tight ends, I most of the time I push it even further than we did with Njoku, and I'll take my second tight end like round 15 if I have a Mandrews or a Waller or Hawkinson type build. So you see,
we just got too much value on Njoku.
Yeah, this team is running pure. So we see Devin Singletary go off the board. Again, we have a few guys in this queue though, running back wise. I think Tyler Chandler would be who I'd lean to, Billy.
Yeah.
Do you want to push somebody else, or are you comfortable with Chandler if he's there?
There's really only one other person that I consider here, and you're probably going to make fun of me about it, but he's the GOAT.
Is it Deuce Vaughn?
No, it's literally the GOAT. It's literally the GOAT. Justin Tucker.
Oh, the actual GOAT. Okay, I thought you were being GOAT. I don't hate taking the elite kicker, and in FFPC, for some of our other high stakes listeners, FFPC, you draft the actual kicker and not a team kicker situation.
Correct.
The other attractive thing about Tucker is that he is a week 13 bye, Billy. So we don't have to, do anything on the waiver wire with kickers. We just set it and forget it.
Correct.
I don't mind that.
I don't usually like taking early kicker, and this is as early as I'd ever go, but it's Justin Tucker. It's the only one that I'd really even consider ever doing this with. And
I say let's do it, because at the end of the day, for me, Ty Chandler versus Kyron Williams is
that's what I'm saying. It's right. Yeah. And we have 4 solid running backs right now too.
Yeah. So let's take Tucker.
You want to take Tucker? Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. I love this team.
We might as well take the GOAT.
Yeah.
And then, hell, we might even get Ty Chandler already went anyways. So we could probably get
Kyron Williams. Let's take Justin Tucker, and I bet you Kyron Williams is sitting there for us in the 15th round.
That's what I'm thinking. Okay, done.
Yeah. So Justin Tucker, we're taking the first kicker. We're gonna be the fish. We're taking the first we're gonna take the first kicker off the board. But again,
we're keeping it elite, Theo. We're keeping
points
it elite.
matter, Billy. Points matter. And Justin Tucker is a safe bet, and we think it's going to be one of the best offenses in football. And he's automatic. He's almost a folk hero at this point. So Justin Tucker is our pick, and we're happy with it. Billy, I think we're officially shutting it down at kicker, and we're not going to consider a kicker too.
You mean you don't want to take Riley Patterson and go double kicker? Well, we could pull a team 11 and take 3 kickers of our next 4 picks and just YOLO it.
Shout out to Team 11. Definitely getting our DMs. Kareem Hunt goes off the board. I've been seeing a couple of people that we are friends with in the high stakes industry taking Kareem Hunt and Leonard Fournette every draft, especially with that early waiver wire run.
Can you scroll up just a little bit so they can see our beginning drafts too? Just a tad.
Sure. Let me just move this camera over.
No, not too many. Don't you scroll up. Scroll the board up.
I'm scrolling the board up. Not myself. Okay, let's. Now I'm scrolling the opposite way.
That's the wrong way.
Okay, but then Billy, this is about as high as I can go to see.
Yeah, just go right there. Okay. Perfect. That way they can see the 3rd round down. That's good. And then we just move it each round.
Yeah, that works.
So Theo, you noticed I'm drinking wine tonight.
Yes.
Theo and I are contemplating drafting a 5K together, depending upon some contingencies. And Theo told me, which one are you looking at? I said, well, we got the Thursday night. After the Thursday night game, we could draft this 5K. Theo tells me, yes, Billy, but you can't drink. I'm like, dude, that's like handicapping me because I do all these drafts while I'm drinking wine. So you're telling me I got to draft sober. It's like you're getting me out of my element here. He's like, okay.
Billy, shout out to our listeners in France and Italy and Portugal and in Greece. Wine is a food in these countries, not necessarily an alcoholic product. So to our European listeners, what I said is completely insulting. Yes, Billy, you may drink as much wine as you want during the kickoff party. Billy's going to be the dude walking around with a glass of wine surrounded
last
by
year too.
1,000 FFPC drafters, literally.
With cocktails.
Yeah, with cocktails and straight up beer. And it's a very, we highly recommend it. Definitely come say hi to Billy and I. We're going to be at the FFPC party, the kickoff party, watching Detroit, Kansas City. We're going to be tilting out with you guys. We love the support we get from the FFPC community. We know a lot of people already, but if we don't know you, definitely come say what's up. And we look forward to drafting against you and hanging out.
So, Theo, are you telling me that I should have the beer helmet with the wine on each side with the straws?
Yes, Billy. I want to have to wake you up between picks when you're passed out. Okay, so Kyron will now.
Kyron went.
So Kyron goes.
That hurts.
Kyron goes. It's fine though. Let's adjust here. Running back. I like Keontae Ingram a lot, Billy. They're going to be very run heavy.
I like Deion Jackson.
I like Keontae more than probably anybody right here left on the board.
I do too.
And again, we're betting on Arizona running the ball a ton. Again, I don't necessarily love handcuffing, but if we're getting an 8th rounder and a 15th rounder, I don't think of that as like, we're using so much capital and are making our team like not so dangerous. I think Keontae is actually the best option on the board because Deion Jackson's never going to see a full workload. You would need Anthony Richardson to target the running back position a lot for him to get, max fantasy value. Like the week that he was running back 1 overall, he had like 9 catches. I think it's Keontae Ingram unless you see a pivot.
I know we don't need a receiver, but Darnell Mooney is so appealing right here.
So there's a chance Keontae is there in the 16th round too, Billy. There's a chance.
Just said that about Kyron too, though.
Yeah, I think Gosh.
I mean, Mooney is like a 13th round pick usually.
Yes, I agree.
And, I mean, wide receiver is our weakness. I usually like taking 6, but Treylon Burks is injured. Jaden Reed is a rookie. Nico Collins still has question marks.
Say no more. Let's roll the dice here. The Keontae Ingram will be there for us in the 16th, and let's take Darnell Mooney.
Okay, and now we really are officially done at receiver.
100%. We will pass on Jalen Hyatt. And I will say that the Rico Dowdle is interesting a little later. I know we're seeing Deuce Vaughn drafted in every single 14th, 15th round now. But I do think if there was a injury to Tony Pollard, Dowdle would see the goal line work, and he would see
see all the 1-2 work, and then you'd see
all of the 1-2. He just wouldn't have the receiving upside of a Pollard. So he's interesting to me if Keontae is not there. I mean, we really just need to have as many potential lottery ticket running backs, and they have dried up a little bit. So where are you at on Chris Evans? Maybe in the 17th.
I like Evans I think he's probably the 3rd down back.
I'll say the Dallas defense, Billy.
Yeah,
it's
Dallas
also
defense
intriguing because I think they're going to absolutely maul people.
Yeah, Dallas defense is good. If we miss them, I'm fine on like the Jets a little bit later too.
Yeah, Jets do have that interesting that I don't want to have to. I want to have a set it and forget it defense, so we don't have to play the waiver wire as much as you do. But the Jets do have some challenging opening games.
They have a very challenging openings all the way up until pretty much week 8, and they even honestly, like they have a pretty hard schedule altogether. They got Buffalo, Dallas, New England is a pretty easy matchup week 3, but then they got Kansas City, Denver could go either way. Philadelphia is tough.
Our Jets listeners, Billy, I'll say this because I live on Long Island. The New England Jets game, all bets are off. No matter what, that's always a tough game. Even if New England's bad, that's going to be a tough game. So
I've drafted enough with Chad where he's seen me take Philly like clockwork because Philly's got a freaking pretty sweet schedule this year. Like the beginning is
Dallas go up. Dallas goes off the board. I've liked taking New Orleans as a defense because they have an
New Orleans
opposite.
has a great
very
schedule.
easy schedule.
Yep. I like New Orleans too. It's one of my go-tos.
And then an interesting one is Washington because they get Arizona week 1.
And then you could just play the waiver wire.
You play the waiver wire, but you get a potential hammer game. And then the other one is because we have the ability to have a waiver wire run after the Thursday night game, you take a free look defense, even though we expect it to be a shootout, a potential pick six, a potential, strip sack and return for a touchdown. Like those things exist for Kansas City, especially if Detroit is playing from behind. So I'm not opposed to taking Kansas City as our defense. And then if they don't put up a number, we potentially pivot off of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of options. I'm less intrigued now to take a defense.
Yeah,
right now.
There's no defense play here. This is a running back. I think this is Keontae Ingram or this is
Denver's also pretty intriguing because and we can get them late because they have Vegas week 1 and I have no faith in Jimmy Garoppolo. Washington, although I like Washington, it still is a question. And then they got Miami there. Not Miami. Is it Miami? Yes, Miami week 3. So, I mean, that offensive line is horrible. Sorry, my alarm went off. I got best ball coming up now.
Are you OTC or it's just
I got 2 minutes.
Okay. You're double drafting.
Yes.
Billy, it's that time of year, man. You don't have too many more days to make your money. So it's
No, I'm not going to get to 150 best balls, but I will probably get to 125.
I think I'm drafting every single night. I shout out to our friend Mike Sanda. I'm doing he's got a Mike Sanda league for draft champions, which is like a 35 round best ball draft. And that's on Monday evening. And then I'm doing a NFFC draft with Alan Soslowski tomorrow night. I have all these FFPC drafts lined up. Dan Williamson and I are drafting a NFFC Super, which is 2,500 on Sunday night. And then I'm scheduling a couple more mains. So this is a time to make some money, man.
Yeah, I'll probably get 125 of these best balls in. I won't be able to max it. Unless I took 4 the other day and 3 the night before. If I average that, I'll be able to max it out, but not every day do we fill 4 best balls.
You've got to pull like a Justin Herzig and just make your rankings and then do a couple auto draft ones just to fill it.
That works when you can I'm literally partaking in all the live ones. They're just not filling them 4 or 5 a day.
You got to jump in a bunch of these 2-hour ones too.
God, I can't do that crap.
I know you don't like it, but the 2-hour ones move relatively quickly.
They do, but the problem is that the 2-hour ones, because I'm West Coast, I feel like I'm always on the clock at 5 a.m. and I'm never up at 5 because I go to bed at 1:32 in the morning, and then I wake up at 7, and so it's that's the one period of night where I'm actually asleep. Just can't do it.
Yeah, it definitely drafting definitely messes with your sleep this time of year. I'll be all amped up after this draft. It'll be after midnight in New York, and I won't be able to get to bed because I'm too. When you run pure, it's like caffeine. It gets you all perked up when you run pure. Okay, so this is easy for me. It's Keontae Ingram. Despite
Keontae Ingram, I know you don't want to hear it, but it's also Clyde Edwards-Helaire for me.
Well, he'll be there in the 17th. I've been seeing Keontae going before him. Are you?
Okay. Well, we have Connor, so I'm fine with Keontae.
Yeah, let's take Keontae Ingram.
Done. And now we're handcuffed.
Okay, and I'm going to scroll the board, Billy.
There you go.
I will say I do like taking in the 20th round, if we have our defense selected, a free look guy, because you just don't know. And sometimes in these early games, you get these, potential big time, performance with a long touchdown. You might have a 16-point game from Josh Reynolds, and I don't dislike the whole using the free look in these FFPC main events. So if we
I'm fine for it. If there's not a running back there that we want, by all means, I'm fine taking into the free look guys.
So let's go ahead and load up this queue a little bit more. I'll put CEH in the queue. We still have your Deion Jackson play in the queue. Chris Evans is in the queue.
Good. I like all those guys. We got Rico in there.
We have Rico Dowdle. Actually, I have Rico in the second in the queue to Deion.
Okay. I'm going to add Elijah Dotson.
Yep.
I'm going to add Keaton Mitchell. Oh, you know who also wanted to start adding is Justice Hill.
Okay.
Because he's been involved in the passing game in preseason too.
Yeah, add him in there. That's definitely a battle. The backup running back job in Baltimore. I don't even think.
I think they trust Justice though. As much as I like Keaton Mitchell, they're probably going to go with Justice Hill.
Well, Justice Hill is Harbaugh's a really big fan of Justice Hill. He specifically talks him up and praises him and all that kind of stuff. So
well, yeah, they drafted him. I forgot when they drafted him.
2019, I believe.
It's been a while.
Yeah, he's been there.
What
for a
round
while.
was he? Do you remember? Round 4. Right,
yeah, he was round 4,
4.11.
and he was a summer steam guy. He moved up. Remember, he was getting drafted in the 9th round. People loved him as a rookie.
God, I can't believe he's been in the league that long. 4 years.
Yeah, and Baltimore has not gotten rid of him. It's kind of like how Rashad Penny was in Philadelphia or in Seattle forever, and they just kept holding on to him, and then he
but
finally
they spent
left
draft capital on Penny.
Yeah, draft capital, and they believe in him, and they probably like the personality and all that. So I don't know, interesting. But Dowdle, I think, would be. I don't necessarily like having 2 handcuffed running backs, but Dowdle is I think the best possible outcome of these guys. Like Elijah Dotson, at the end of the day, like if Austin Eckler goes down, what's that?
So we are double cuffing, but I'm
cuffing
okay
is we're gonna get a bad reputation there, Billy.
It's kind of like my golf game. It's I always whenever we do tournaments, our team name is 3-putt par.
Double cuffing, you feel like you want to hold on to these guys and not be as aggressive on the waiver wire. You're going to want to cut one anyway. I believe in Keontae Ingram being more of a like-for-like replacement. I like Dowdle a lot, but I do think, as much as I'm not selecting Deuce Vaughn, I do think he would get the receiving work, and it would be a little bit more of a split. So I don't think we can afford having 2 handcuffed running backs, Billy.
I think it would be fine because the chances of us actually using these guys are probably pretty slim and none because we have 4 solid ones.
Yeah. Dowdle's the best value on the board. If we're going to go draft the best value on the board, I think it is the handcuff running back in Dallas. But again, just knowing the way we're going to play the wire, we're probably going to.
I'm sorry, I'm on the clock in both drafts. You want Chris Evans? Is that who you're saying?
Yeah, I think Chris Evans. Let's take a handcuff in Cincy. Yeah,
done. Yeah,
but now if Dowdle's there in the 18th round, we're going to take him.
Correct. AJ Brown just fell to me in the best ball draft at 2.5.
You're running pure all night, Billy.
I'm happy.
Now, may I suggest a QB2, or you don't want to do it?
No, not.
I'll just say this: you have Kenny Pickett and you have Sam Howell. I think one of those 2 might end up being a big waiver wire addition for in leagues they weren't selected.
Yeah, you just said the key word. They're going to be great waiver wire additions. I would rather take the free look and nothing happens than pick those guys up before the Sunday.
That's fine. That's definitely a fair argument. So let's start loading in a couple of. Let's first of all add a couple of defenses. If we see the Jets are still there. New England is still there. Kansas City, Washington, and then the double Detroit wide receivers with Marvin Jones and Josh Reynolds are there.
Got him in there.
And then let's talk about the Kansas City free look guys. Richie James.
Did Prince go already?
Let me see if he went.
I doubt he does anything, but Prince is a free look. Kansas City defense is a free look.
Kansas City defense. So there's another potential play where we take a positional player here. But I don't want to, I was going to galaxy brain that one. The galaxy brain move would be you draft Kansas City defense and you draft Washington defense. And if Kansas City doesn't have a big week, then you just start Washington against Arizona. But that's just kind of galaxy braining it. I think the better move would be grab Josh Reynolds or Marvin Jones in like the 20th round. We take a running back here, then we take our defense.
Yeah, because you could always. I mean, you could even take KC and you could do 19 KC, or I mean, you got 6 defenses off the board already, and so you could even if KC drops. Let me take a look, because KC's the 3rd, 4th on the board right now. You could take if KC continues to fall, you could take KC here. You could take your free look in round 20, and if KC gets blown up, then you could even drop KC and pick up a Denver or a Miami or Pittsburgh even. And then
I think if you want Kansas City defense, you consider taking them here, Billy. If that's
I don't have to have them at all.
Then
I would rather have Rico just went.
Rico went. So
I'd rather have Dion here, honestly.
Dion Jackson is the pick.
Yeah, I'd rather have Dion.
Yeah, I'm with you on Dion. I do think Dion we're going to end up cutting, but we'll probably end up cutting anybody in the 18th round. So
if Jonathan Taylor gets traded, though, you're not probably cutting Dion.
This is right, and also you have the fact that Zach Moss is not going to be there to start the season.
Correct.
More so,
and even if he is, Zach Moss is not a pass catcher. Dion was a pass catcher,
and Zach Moss is just not that good.
Zach Moss sucks ass.
Yeah, he's let's be honest. Like at the end of the day, if you're going to put a Colts running back in your starting lineup at some point in this season, this is just if Taylor is gone, then it's Jackson or Hull, because of the unknown. Like Moss is
the other thing you could do.
The
other thing you could do is you could if Dion goes here too, is you could take Isaiah Spiller and take Elijah Dotson and see who wins that number 2 spot.
Yeah, the blackjack split. I've done that many a time. It's a dangerous game though, Billy, because when 2 guys are battling out, once in a while neither one does anything. So
it's very true.
Yeah, the blackjack split rarely pays off when you're betting on that. I remember a young Theo Greminger who took what was that situation? Who were the running backs in? It was Jordan Howard, and who was the other running back in Miami the year that Gaskin just dusted everybody?
Salvin Ahmed.
No, it was somebody else. Ahmed was definitely there later in the year, but to start the season, it was. We'll have to look that one up for the people listening. But I tried the blackjack split, never worked. Okay, so
you get Dion.
Going with this pick? Let's take Dion Jackson,
and then I'd really like a Justice Hill share too on the way back.
Let's do it. Well, then if you're taking Justice Hill, you're passing up the free look.
That's a fair point.
So I think at the end of the day, Justice Hill is in a battle for, the RB2 position. I will say that like Dobbins is not ever going to be perfectly healthy. I think we want the free look, Billy. I think we take the free look and a defense.
I'm 100% fine with it.
So then our pick in the 19th round should be our defense, because I think the free look guys will all be there in the 20th.
They'll all be there.
Yeah.
So, there's still 3 defenses there. So 1, 2, 3 guys to our left have defense. So if they don't take them here, we actually still have pretty good options with the Jets, New England, and Kansas City. More than likely, one of these guys passes it and takes him in round 20.
And I'll just say, Washington, though.
And everybody to our right, actually. So hold up. If everybody to our left passes it, we could either have your choice of 3 defenses, or you could skip it and take whichever free look you want, and then take the defense back, because everybody to our right already has 1 defense.
Okay, so let's talk this out. Marvin Jones missed some time. He's back, correct?
He's back,
but he missed some time. And I think that Richie James is more likely gonna. It's Richie James versus Josh Reynolds for me, but I would go Marvin Jones for a Billy Muzio special in the 20th round. For nostalgia, Marvin Jones gets a 50-yard touchdown reception, and he catches 4 more balls, and he ends up with, 95 yards on four catches with a touchdown, and we start him.
I would take Marvin Jones over both those guys pretty easily. So there goes Kansas City.
So there goes KC. So the free look defense is not there. We're not going to mess around with the Detroit free look. Even though Detroit's going to have a decent pass rush this year. We're gonna take let's
so
take
New
this
England
out,
has
really.
Philly week 1, so that's please stay away from if we can. The Jets actually have Buffalo week 1, not the greatest.
The Jets have Buffalo week 1, but we have seen teams get to Josh Allen, and we saw that with Miami last year, and we saw that in the Cincinnati game last year, where
That's true.
people are able to pressure Josh Allen, and they're breaking in some new pieces. Billy, they have I love James Cook, I love Dalton Kincaid, but those guys being every down players, I mean, they're a little different. But Buffalo's got some issues right now. They didn't look very good against Pittsburgh when the starting lineups were out there in that preseason game either. So I'm not scared of rolling the dice and just betting on the Jets have talented players at every level of the defense. They look like a set it and forget it defense that you just draft. So if we got to go through one tough matchup to start the year and a couple tough matchups, you're betting on the talent. So I don't know. I could go either way though. I'm a matchup guy, but when you have
they just took Washington. I know we talked about them.
If you have so many teams, you don't want to have to play the waiver wire game at defense every week.
I mean, I'm kind of fine with it actually.
You love it. You love it.
Okay, but I'm a sicko. I do waivers all day. That's a little different.
So then we're looking at taking the Jets in the 19th round here.
The Jets in the 19th round. I'm just looking at week 1 matchups to see if we do want to play the waiver game. Who does Cleveland has? Cincinnati. That's a no. Miami has Chargers. That's a no. Pittsburgh has SF. No, thank you. Who does Seattle have? The Rams. Probably. Maybe.
It's interesting.
Who does Seattle have week 2? Detroit, Carolina, Giants. Not a bad start. But the Jets after Buffalo have Dallas, New England, Kansas City. They have a tough start to the season.
Yeah, they really do.
Where New England at least has Philly, and then it's Miami, which their offensive line is horrible. The Jets, which their offensive line is bad. Dallas, that could go either way. New Orleans, Vegas, Buffalo, Miami.
Well, I think it's the Jets. I know they have the hard schedule,
best talent. They have the best talent,
and they have the best cornerback in the league. And I don't know. They have a lot of dudes on that defense. So
yeah, I have a $100 bet Jets versus Miami defense this year.
Oh, you won that one.
Did you see the Twitter poll I posted like a month ago? A month ago, it was a lot closer in my mind, but it was like 97% to 3% Miami over the Jets. And I was so shocked because I picked the Jets and I'm like, Miami's going to have a lot of shootouts. Their defense isn't as good as people think. And then we saw the injury to Ramsey, of course. And then I bet you if I post that again, I bet you it's flopped, but not 97-3.
No, you're right about that.
But 97 to 3% picked Miami. That's crazy.
I mean, there's literally no poll should be 97 to 3% unless it's an absurd one. So, Billy, you had some, false voting on that one. I would redo that poll completely.
Dude, it was like 1,000 votes, dude.
It's weird.
The only way it should be that close is if like Jackson Smith the Jigba is like worse than wide receiver 36.
So I'll say at the 2006 here, it's Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones, unless you want to see what happens with Elijah Dotson.
I really like Elijah Dotson, but I'm fine taking the free look. And then if nothing happens, if Dotson doesn't,
we can grab. So I think that Howell and Dotson are guys that I like taking here. But again, we have the ability to cut Marvin Jones and get one of those guys.
Yeah, free look Marvin Jones. We could take Dotson if he doesn't get drafted. We could take Justice Hill if he doesn't get drafted. There's a lot of options that we could do.
Okay, so let's take Marvin Jones here and get that nice free look.
Dude, if he puts up like a 75-yard touchdown game.
Dude, we're gonna feel so smart.
And it's all gonna be because I love Marvin Jones.
And then we're gonna feel really sick if Josh Reynolds goes off for 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm gonna
feel incredibly sick if Reynolds does, because I have so much Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs and all these guys, and if it's just the okay, so Rashid Shaheed goes a couple picks away.
There's still a lot of receivers on the board.
Yeah, dude, we could go a couple more rounds here. There's a lot of guys I'd like to draft.
I know Curtis Samuel, there's Devontae Parker, there's
DPJ is still there.
Yeah.
Cedric Tillman's still there.
Sterling Shepard, the bionic man, the guy who always has career-ending injuries every year. It's amazing that he always comes back, honestly.
Okay, so it's going to be Marvin Jones here.
Locked.
Muzio special. All right, so we have just picked our last pick, and Billy and I are very happy with this build. This build turned out really nice. Just to go through our draft, we took Saquon Barkley at the 107. Then in the second round, we have a running back start with Tony Pollard. Potentially the top 2 running backs in football are on our team. Darren Waller in the 3rd round. Christian Watson in the 4th. Brandon Ayuk in the 5th. Jahan Dotson in the 6th. We recovered at the wide receiver position with those 3. Then we went back to the running back well in the 7th and 8th round with Miles Sanders and James Conner. Then we took Treylon Burks in the 9th. David Njoku in the 10th. Nico Collins in the 11th. Then we were able to get our New York Giants stack with Daniel Jones. Jaden Reed, we took in the 13th round, somewhat of a hedge to Christian Watson, and also we believe in the talent of Jaden Reed. Justin Tucker, we were the fish. We took the first kicker off the board, and we loved it. Darnell Mooney in the 15th round. Keontae Ingram in the 16th. Chris Evans in the 17th. Deion Jackson in the 18th. Then we went with the Jets defense in the 19th. And then the Marvin Jones free look in the 20th. Billy, your thoughts on this team?
I like it. Usually not this receiver heavy. That being said, it is our weakness, I believe. I mean, we're solid at tight end. We're solid at running back. We have a serviceable quarterback week in and week out. There's plenty on the waiver wire. If we don't, we'll like Daniel Jones. So I think that we have a lot of outs with this team. So I'm okay taking an extra tight end extra couple of receivers like we did, and then getting the free look on top of it for the receiver position. If it doesn't work out week 1, Marvin Jones is the dud, it's fine. We drop him on Saturday night / Sunday morning, and we get ourselves another handcuff running back going into Sunday morning. So I think we have a lot of outs. I do think receivers are our weakness, but I like the upside plays that we have with Watson, Ayuk, and Jahan Dotson. And I think that we have some outs within Treylon Burks, Nico Collins, and Jaden Reed and Darnell Mooney, as well as potentially, a fill-in if we need to.
This might be the best build we've done together in a high-stakes draft, Billy.
Yeah, outside that, best ball was fucking money.
The best ball we've ran very pure in best ball, but
we're pretty much winning $200K off that best ball.
Yeah, that 200, it's in the bag. It's in the bag.
It's the only Jamar Chase and Garrett Wilson team in the entire tournament
with Chris Olave in the 3rd.
It's pretty deadly. It's like change my shorts in the 3rd round kind of draft. You know what I mean?
And we also got Rachaad White incredibly low.
It's like round 8.
Yeah. So this is definitely not a show about our best ball draft from like 6 weeks ago, but it's still fun to reminisce. This was so much fun. We're really thankful for all the support First Class Fantasy has gotten. We've been getting a lot of views, a lot of positive feedback, and we've got some great stuff planned for in the season. And then next week we're going to have Dave Kluge and Alfredo Brown of Football Guys coming on with us, and then we might sneak in another First Class Fantasy before we go to Vegas, like an off schedule one. We'll try to squeeze a couple more in. And then definitely check out our episode with Sean Siegel of RotoViz. We're going to do a 0 RB one that would have gone down a couple days before this draft airs. Billy, what do you have with the Dominator this weekend?
Dominator this weekend is going down. I don't have a plan, but I told everybody we're going to be drafting every single weekend for this month. So it will be a draft. It's either going to be FFPC or it's going to be Underdog. I have not decided yet, but we will be drafting just because it's draft season, and that's what the Dominator does. The Dominator dominates, and we're going to draft. So that's the plan for Sunday. Vegas is around the corner, Theo. We're both there. We will figure out what we're going to do in Vegas, but we definitely got to do some sort of content while we're in Vegas.
Yeah, we 100% will.
Whether it's punking Adam and Mike Shope or whoever it is, we got to get something fun and creative going. But we'll figure that out as well as we get closer to Vegas. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the draft, and again, like Theo said, for the support, the amazing support that you've given us here at First Class Fantasy and Player Profiler. Make sure to take a look at our draft kit. You're getting ready for your drafts at home. We got our analyst cheat sheets in there. I'm updating mine tomorrow, which is going to be 8/24 for the record, and excited to have that. We'll see you all back here next week. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you, allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.